Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm doing pretty good. I'm just going to start my video out. This is a video made by Kentucky Cooking with Kathy. If you're watching it under any other site, they have stole the video. Please don't watch it. Please don't like it. Report them. And if you want to see my videos, go to my page. I would appreciate that. You know, it seems like we have lots of people willing to steal other people's stuff to make money off of it, while the people that are actually doing it don't even make money off of it. So I just want everybody to be aware. The other site that posts my videos a lot is Cooking in the Kitchen. And if that's the one you're watching, that's a fake. That's a scam. They're a bunch of thieves. So don't give them any business. Or otherwise, I'll just quit making the videos. I've got a hair wanting to stand up here. It's not wanting to lay down. But anyway, the reason that I'm cooking this morning is I'm trying to make some things so that you all can have things you can make ahead of time for Thanksgiving. Some people had asked me about that. And, you know, we have the traditional desserts like pumpkin pie and things like that. And you can make those days ahead. They work fine. They don't ruin. You can leave them sitting out on the counter for a few days, or even in the fridge, whichever you want to do. My mom always left hers sitting right there on the kitchen table the first day or two. And then if it wasn't all gone, she might put it in the refrigerator. Never seen anybody die from it. But anyway, we're going to be making pecan pie bread pudding today. If you like pecan pie, I think you'll really like this. So just, you know, give it a try. I told somebody the other day, I never did like bread pudding. Because, you know why? Because I got somebody's bread pudding that was not a good cook. And it makes a lot of difference. And then I started experimenting with this a little bit about a year and a half ago. And different kinds of bread puddings, because you can put different flavors of things in there with them. It's just a matter of getting it right, how much to put in. And I was thinking yesterday, I bet chocolate chips would be good in this. You could call it a derby bread pudding. It's almost like pecan pie, but you add in the semi-sweet chocolate chips in it too. And then you've got a derby bread pudding. In Kentucky, we have something called a derby pie. And it has pecans and chocolate chips and things like that in the pie. So just stay tuned. I'm going to get the stuff ready here. And then in just a few minutes, we're going to start putting it together. One thing that I did do, let me show you all this. I took a whole loaf of Texas toast and I cut it up into chunks day before yesterday. And I put it in the oven on 250 degrees for about 30 minutes. And I stirred them once or twice. And I let these dry out quite a bit. Because if you let these dry out good, when you pour the batter on them, they're going to soak it up good. And it's going to be a lot better. There's a key to making bread pudding and making good bread puddings. But I've already got my breadcrumbs ready. As you can see, they're chunks. I like to use pretty good chunks. And it's not mushy then. It's not all gloopy together. But anyway, we got the breadcrumbs ready. And I'm going to get the wet ingredients ready. I'll be right back. Okay. I have got most everything here assembled except I needed whole milk. So Robert had to run and get me some whole milk. But anyway, this is what you're going to need. Let me get you down here. You're going to need 5 eggs, because this is going to make a big 9x13 pan. So it's going to make a big dessert. And you're going to need vanilla. I use maple flavoring in mine because I think it gives it a little better flavor, but that's optional. You don't have to put it in there. If you don't have maple flavoring, don't go buy any. You don't need to. It's okay. You're going to need a little salt. You're going to need 1 1/4 cup of white sugar. And you're going to need 3 cups of whole milk and 1 1/4 cup of half and half. So this is what we're going to use right here. As soon as he gets back with the milk, we're going to start putting it all together. And you also are going to need 1 stick of butter. This is for the pecan pie topping stuff and the filling in it. and you're going to need 1.5 cups of brown sugar. I use half dark and half light, but you can use all light. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And you're going to need 1.5 cups of chopped pecans. Okay. Now this dessert is not cheap, so if you're going to make it right. Do it right. If you're going to spend money on pecans and brown sugar and butter and all these things, do it right. Learn how to do it right. Don't waste your money. So in just a second, we'll be getting back together, and we're going to put this pecan pie bread pudding together, and you guys are going to love it. You're going to love it. Another little tip I thought I'd let you know before we start is you need to butter a 9x13 baking dish. And since I'm taking this to my surgeon's office today, to the nurses there, I'm using a disposable pan. And also, I've got my oven on 350 degrees. It's preheating. Always kind of make you a little checklist of things you need to do before you get started. That way it saves you a lot of headaches, young cooks. And buttering this just helps your bread pudding not stick to the pan so bad. You don't waste any of it. But anyway, now listen, before all of you all say, "Law, that's lots of sugar in that. This is a dessert. This is a dessert to feed 12 to 15 people. So it's going to be a little bigger. It's going to have sugar in it, and it's pecan pie. So don't get on here and say, "Oh, it's got sugar in it." Yes, it does. If you can't have this sugar, or you don't want all this sugar, then just, that's okay. This is for people that want to make something for Thanksgiving. And something that will go a long way, something different that maybe your family hasn't had. And they're going to say, "Wow, man, that's good. How'd you learn how to make that?" You know what I'm talking about. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel good when you make something your family loves. I always did. My kids, I loved cooking for my kids. And when they say, "Boy, Mom, that's good," that's just like, you couldn't have made me feel any better if you'd given me $100. And I miss cooking for my kids. This is awful. What we're going to do while we're waiting on Robert to bring the milk back is we're going to go ahead and make the topping. We can make that, set that aside, and that'll be ready when we start putting it all together. We won't have to stop and do that. We're going to take our 1.5 cups of brown sugar. We're going to add a stick of butter. You can use salted or unsalted. It doesn't matter. I use salted for this because I want it to have a little bit of flavor, So I don't want to add salt to it because sometimes you get too much in it. So I'm just going to use salted butter. That's what I used the other time, and it worked really good. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to squish all this up. Let me get you turned down here just a little bit. You're going to squish all this up like this. And we're going to make it kind of like, you want it to be the consistency of, if you come across a hard place in your brown sugar, sometimes you can mash those up and sometimes you can't. So don't leave that in there. Somebody get a hold of that and break a tooth. You want this to be the consistency of wet sand. It's going to be kind of gloopy, and that's why you got to kind of work this around till. And once you kind of get it mixed in with the brown sugar a little bit, then you mix in the pecans, because we want it to kind of stick to them too. I'm going to mix in part of them. And then I'll mix the rest in a minute. And the butter will kindly stick to the pecans. Now I'm going to put the rest of them in. It's just like playing in mud. Okay, now you can see that I've kindly got it just you know, there's no big clumps in there now. And now we've got that ready, and we can set that aside. I'm going to try to get as much of this brown sugar off my hands as I can, so I'm not wasting my ingredients. Okay, let me rinse my hands real fast. I have to put soap on my hands because that butter does not come off with just hot water. So I have to put me some Dawn dishwashing liquid in there to cut that off. I don't know about you all or what kind of fall you've been having, but we have had a beautiful fall. Colors, we've had some of the prettiest colors. Now the trees are starting to lose their leaves, and they're not so pretty anymore, but Robert was just telling me a few minutes ago before he left, he said next week. So we may get some snow, guys. But anyway, now we've got the topping, the pecan pie topping stuff already set aside. And now all we've got to do is get our batter together. And then once you get all the batter together, we're going to pour it over these breadcrumbs. We're going to pour it over these chunks that I dried the other day. Then we're going to let it sit for at least 10 minutes. Sometimes I let it sit about 12. But 10 to 12 minutes, it just depends on how quick the bread soaks up the batter. And I always put a lid on top of mine, and I put it in a bowl like this. So every few minutes, without taking my hands and running through it and tearing up the bread, I can do like this. And I don't tear up my bread, but I can get the top wet again, so that all the batter on the bottom is not the one getting all the moisture. So that's a good idea. If you don't have any of these bowls, you need to buy you some of them. These things are so handy. They're like $4 for 3 of them or 2 of them, something like that. And I've got at least 6 or 8 of these in my cupboard. The big ones and the little ones, the smaller ones. But just little tips help. And you don't want to keep running your hands through it because it's going to tear the bread up. But if you can just turn it upside down just to get the water or the liquid batter over the top of the bread again, it's easy to do it like that. Or if you've got Tupperware or anything like that, it works. It works. So we'll be right back in just a minute. Okay, now we're ready to start. We got the milk. So we're going to put 3 cups of whole milk into and I put it in my mixing bowl. I've done a lot of stirring yesterday and the day before, and I've got my neck razzed up a little bit. And you'll probably see water on my shirt. I washed a few dishes. I was sitting here waiting. Okay, now. Going to put 1.5 cups of half and half. So we're going to. Ooh, that's about all I've got too. Robert says, you need anything else? I said, no, I think I got plenty. Okay. Now, this is not a dessert that you'd want to eat every day. This is a special occasion dessert. And everybody's going to say, well, no, I wouldn't dream eating this stuff every day. I mean, I'm 66-year-old. You want to know how fat I'd be if I ate this stuff all the time? This is a special occasion dessert when you're going to have a lot of people. So that you'll have plenty of people and you won't eat it all. Now, we're going to put our 5 eggs into the bowl. Let me get you all turned around this way a little bit now. Hopefully. And you can see what I'm doing. Let me get my mixer around here just a tad bit. There we go. You can see the milk. Now we're going to put the eggs in. There's one. Let me get my bowl over here that I keep my eggshells in. I keep them for a friend of mine. She likes to put them in her garden. So I try to keep them for her. Oh, me. I have a surgeon appointment with the surgeon today, and she's going to look at my incision again. I can tell that window is just absolutely glare and everything. My kitchen, I have got to get some shades back here so that that window does not glare right in your face. Okay. Let's see here now. Let's get you down here just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to put in our vanilla flavoring. Now it takes 3 teaspoons of vanilla flavoring. 1, 2, 3. And I put a teaspoon of maple flavoring in mine because I just like it. I like the flavor it gives it. If you don't like it, that's fine. If you don't have any, you don't have to go buy maple flavoring. But it's good to have if you like it in other things. Now, it takes about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So we're going to put a little salt in it. Okay, milk, 1/2 eggs, sugar. Got to put my sugar in. That is 1 1/4 cups of white sugar. We got our vanilla, we got our salt, we got our maple flavoring. Okay, that's everything. So now I'm going to take my mixer blade, or if you want to do this with a whisk in a bowl, that's fine. Whoops. I like to get it mixed up pretty good. And I just can't, I know if you're like me and you're older, you know that it's harder to, let me turn this thing just a second. Okay, I'm trying to get this light adjusted and it's just not wanting to cooperate this morning. Okay, now I've got my batter all stirred up here. See if I can get this over without dropping egg everywhere. Okay, now we're going to take our bread chunks that have been dried out. Like I said, I put these in the oven for about 30 minutes. I just spread them out on a cookie sheet, and after I cut them up and got them dried, and then I just put them in this bowl and let them sit on the counter with a dish towel over them. I didn't want to put a lid. I didn't want them to sweat. I just wanted them to kind of get stale, more stale, so they absorb this batter a lot better. Okay, now I'm going to pour this over the top. And I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to push them down in here a little bit. You can do this when you first put them in. But once the bread starts absorbing that, you don't want to. Now, I'm going to kind of push it down in there like this. I want it all to be kind of submerged in the liquid. Then I'm going to put my lid on, right like this. And rinse my hand off. Now, I'm going to let this sit here for about 10 minutes, and probably about at least twice, I'm going to turn it upside down and let it sit for just a second. And, you know, you could even leave it sitting upside down to make sure you're getting the top part wet too. So, I'll be back in a few minutes once I've let this set for 10 minutes, and I flipped it up and let it, you know, let the bottom part get wet, and then flip it back up, and hopefully it absorbs quite a bit of this. And then we're going to put the rest of it together. See you on a bit. Okay, now I'm flipping it. It's been about 3 minutes, so I'm flipping it so that the bottom half gets wet a little bit. And I'm just going to leave it sitting right like this. Then about 3 or 4 more minutes, I'm going to flip it back. Okay, now we're going to flip it upside down. And we're going to let this bottom part, and I'm just going to leave it sitting like this. We'll be right back. Okay, guys, I've had this soaking, and I have flipped it 4 times. Down, up, down. So surely it's got soaked pretty good. Yeah, feels like it has. Feels like it has. Now, what we're going to do, let me put this over here in the sink, is we're going to put this into our pan. I've already got it buttered, and we're going to put half of this into the pan right now. You just kind of want to make a single layer. Kind of like this. Okay, now we're going to pour just a little bit of this over it here. Kind of makes the custardy. Now, we're going to get our pecan brown sugar butter mixture, and we're going to sprinkle some of that. You want to try to sprinkle it all over, just a even, you know, you want to try to get it everywhere so that all of it tastes the same. And I kind of tend to put more of it in this layer than I do the top layer, because this is where the ooey gooey is going to take place. Okay, now we're going to put the rest of our bread pudding mixture on top of this, and try to get a good even layer the best you can. I know sometimes it's not possible to get it exactly like we'd like to, but you know, just try to get it spread out as much as you can. Okay, now I usually kind of eyeball it and see if there's any bare spots, kind of. And there's going to be a few, because, you know, you can't get it all. Now, we're going to put the rest of this on top, like this. Just going to kind of sprinkle it around. You get a little in that corner there. I believe I got it everywhere else more than I did the corner. Now, let me rinse my hands just a second. I always leave my dish towel way over here. I know you all don't ever do that, do you? Seems like we leave everything laying the opposite side of where we're going to need it. Now, as you can see, that thing's heavy. This is a big dessert. It's a big dessert. It's actually a double. I doubled my original recipe because I wanted to make a big pan, you know, because you're going to be making this for a dinner, you know, a big dinner. Now, we're going to put this in the oven for at least 50 to 65 minutes. You know, it just kind of varies. You don't ever make these exactly the same, but you always want to look at the center, guys. The center is the last place it's going to get done. The edges will cook, and it will cook inward. So if you're a young cook, always look at the center part, and you want to kind of tap it. If it's firm and jiggly, you know, it's probably done. But don't worry about it. If the edges look like they're getting brown and stuff, it probably will a little bit, you know, because the outside's going to cook a lot quicker. So we're going to put this in the oven, and I will make a picture of this when it's done, and I will post the recipe with it, okay? So no 50,000 questions about the recipe. I will post a picture of the finished product with the recipe, so look for it. And if you would like to make this into a derby pie bread pudding, all you got to do is add some miniature semi-sweet chocolate chips. You can do that. Add you about a 3/4 of a cup maybe to the batter when you're putting it in. And got another one. Got a winner. Winner, winner. And Robert's going to say chicken dinner. You all have a blessed day. And do something good for somebody else today. And just thank the Lord that you woke up today. I know life's not always perfect. We all go through our struggles and our troubles and our trials in this life. But you know, that makes us stronger and it draws us closer to God. And you know, when things are going real good, sometimes we have a tendency to forget God. We have a tendency not to pay as much attention to Him. We kind of leave Him sitting on the back burner. And you know, I hope I don't do that, but I'm a human being. I know I've probably been guilty of it many times. So I don't want anybody to feel so bad about it. Just think about it. You know, be aware of it. That you know, this is a day that the Lord has made. It says, "I will rejoice and be glad in it." You know, God's made this beautiful day for us. I look at creation of all the wonderful things He has made for us, and so many people fail to give God that glory, fail to recognize who He is. And you know what? God gave us one of the greatest gifts of anything, and that was Jesus. He gave us the gift of Jesus, where we can have salvation and we can go to heaven and be with God someday. And you know, that's a wonderful thing. That's why we live with that hope. That's why things do not scare us like other people. Because we have a hope. We have a hope of going to heaven someday. And we just thank everybody for tuning in with us and being patient with me while I've been going through this stuff. And, you know, I'll probably go through a few more things before it's over with. But you know what? God's there with me every step of the way. You all have a blessed day. You want to say anything, Robert? He said hi, you all. He's busy working today, so he can't really come in here. But anyway, we'll talk to y'all later, and I'll put a picture of this on when it's ready. See you guys. Bye. Keep praying for me.